What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. This is the second time I'm making this video, so I actually deleted it by accident. I went to look for it on my phone. I was like, fuck, I deleted it. So this is number 2. I usually don't remake videos. I just say screw it, but this one is one that I'm getting requests for over and over again, so I figured fuck it. And I wasn't even going to make the video. I got a message from Billy Luther from Luther Training, and he was like, hey man, you going to make a video about the Arnold Brazil? I was like, fuck no, nobody gives a shit about the Arnold Brazil. Why the fuck would I make a video about that? And then the next morning I woke up and there was fucking 25 emails being like, did you see what happened? What's your opinion? Oh my god. And then I got messages on Facebook and then messages on Twitter, and I was like, okay, now it's even falling over to Instagram. I was like, fuck it, alright. Let's go ahead and, because I hadn't even looked at the, I saw the results, but I hadn't even looked at any of the pictures really. So, without further ado, Steve Kuklo beat Lionel Biecki. And there's a huge uproar. People are fucking livid. They're like, oh my god, I can't believe he beat him. Fucking crazy. This is bullshit. Politics this, politics that. Now let's back up for a second. Now, from what I saw from pictures, and you can't tell by pictures everything that's going on if you're not there live. But Peter McGough from MD was screaming real loud about how it's such a travesty and a tragedy, and he used all these big proper words about how Lionel lost. Now, there's two different physiques. There's the full round one, and there's the flat, hard, dry one that's big. Both these guys were big. Peter was fucking praising to God about Dorian Yates when Dorian was around. And there was a guy named Flex Wheeler who had a similar Biecki physique. And Dorian was the big shit. And Peter McGough, Dorian this, Dorian that, oh my god, shredded this, oh my god, crazy muscle, blah, blah, blah. Now, lo and behold, here we flipped the script, and now you got Lionel Biecki, and now he's like, Biecki, full round, blah, blah. Be consistent at least. You know, if you're going to say that physique like Yates should win over a physique like Wheeler, here we are. And I would say if you had to put these two guys, Kuklo and Biecki, Kuklo would be more like Yates because he was flat and hard and wide. He wasn't full. And Biecki was lean, but he was full. So, you know, let's face facts. If you're going to go say the years ago that Dorian should have beat Flex because of all these things, then it's the same fucking situation now. But now I'm on rxmuscle.com on YouTube. And I'm looking at the mandatories. So from the front, you got Maurice Doan, De La Rosa, Biecki, Steve Kuklo, and Juan Morel, and then that little short guy from Europe who popped up in Australia. I can't remember his name. Now, just from the front, what I'm looking at is Kuklo's a little bit flat. However, if you look through the quads, where Biecki is full through the teardrop, Kuklo's sweep is better, and he's drier. Okay, now he's dry and he's hard. He's hard as you can get. Inside his tie-ins, his delt tie-ins, he's harder. Through his lats, you can clearly see in the front. If you go to this video and pick apart what I'm telling you, in the front mandatory pose in the symmetry round, Kuklo is harder through the lats, and overall he's actually just as wide, if not wider, than Biecki. So he's just as big. He's harder. And whether you like to admit it or not, you may like that full round look, but Steve's actually more symmetrical. He's just flat. He doesn't have that pop to his physique. And just because you don't have the pop doesn't mean you don't fucking win. The quads are clearly, if you look at the separations, are harder. The lats harder. The delts harder. Just as wide, maybe a little bit wider than Biecki. And overall, he stands with his waist pulled up, whereas Biecki's kind of down a little bit. It changes the symmetry. So right off the bat, I give that one to Steve. You turn to the right. Now, a quarter turn to the right. Now what I see is Biecki has more of a teardrop in the bottom of his leg. However, if you look at Kuklo, the cut is much harder from his hamstring. His waist is actually tighter and smaller than Biecki's. He's flatter. Striations are more apparent in Steve's chest from the side pose. As well as, let's see, he's a little flat in the delts, and Biecki's got a little bit of roundness in the delts, but Steve has, symmetry-wise, has Biecki beat in that quarter turn. So that's the quarter turn to the right. Let's do the next quarter turn to the right. So now they're facing the rear. Now they're in the rear pose for the rear symmetry pose. You look at Steve Kuklo. Now Biecki appears to have more cuts in his back because his shoulder blades are pinched. So his traps look more separated. However, that's not a fact once he brings those out. And an IFBB judge will know off the bat that it's not because he's more muscular. It's because he's not pulling his shoulder blades apart. If you look at where the rear delt inserts into the tricep, you'll see the hardness on Kuklo. Not as hard on Biecki. It's just not there. You go down, what jumps right out at you, Steve Kuklo's glutes are fucking hard and dry, so are his hamstrings. Biecki has a little bit of water or fat left on him, and the trunks dig in. The trunks are not digging in on Kuklo. These are stuff that if you don't have a trained eye, you're not going to see, and you just look at the full round wow factor of Bieki's physique and say, he should have won. Well, that's not a fact. As I'm picking these things out, these are the fucking best judges in the world. These are the fucking pro judges. They're picking this shit apart, and this is what they see, and this is what I'm telling you. Go to the rxmuscle.com, Arnold Brazil, in the prejudging callouts, and you'll see. Just go with what I'm telling you. Quarter turn to the right, now they're facing the other way. So they're from the back, quarter turn to the right. Very clear and apparent. Steve's glutes are feathered. As his obliques come in towards his trunk, super tight, no digging in whatsoever there. Super tight in the delts. Bieki has that rounder fuller tricep. Steve's chest, more striated from the side. Okay, so now you clearly are starting to see a trend. Steve's just as big, except he's harder in some places. It's not that his symmetry is off. Steve's symmetrical, big, wide. He looks fucking good. He's on. Those little things that Bieki is missing, like the dryness and the hardness, and the way that his his symmetry is not. Although he's full, he's not as symmetrical as Steve is. That's why he didn't win. Now they're standing to the front again. Let's hit the front double bicep. Front double bi, the first pose right off the bat. You can see the hardness and the dryness of Steve through the quads, all the way up to the hip where his trunks do not dig in. Bieki's trunks dig into him. Water or fat. That's what's happening right there. If you want to go, tit for tat and say, well, it's a front double bicep pose. The biceps are, the arms are really what's, you look at. Steve's bicep and tricep are perfectly symmetrical and even. Bieki's not. Steve bis and tris are harder. Bieki's are not. They're full and round. When you go straight through top to bottom, Steve's sweep is better in his legs. Bieki's get better teardrops. So just because you have better teardrops and a fuller physique doesn't make you the champion, or it doesn't make you the first place winner right there. Front lat, we're not going to go through every one of these, but let's go through, side chest. All right, so side chest. Now, what we see straight through the bat is Bieki appears to be fuller, and now this pose, he looks harder. So now he wins a pose here. So now you've gone through the symmetry rounds where you clearly see, and that's why they have different rounds, where you clearly see like his arm is actually in front of his trunks, so you can't see the trunks digging in, so obviously you wouldn't be able to see that. Steve is drier, he's a little bit flatter, but he's just as big as Bieki, just as big. I mean, this pose I would probably give to Bieki, to be honest with you. Now we turn around to the rear double bicep, which is a very good telling pose. Right off the bat, Steve's hamstrings and glutes hard. Trunks not digging into his glutes or his lower back. Lower back is much harder and drier than Bieki. But you got to remember, it's not just about who's dry and hard. You have to be fucking big too. And Steve is big. He's wide. He's got everything you need. He's just not full. So do you penalize an athlete who has fucking most of the attributes and just isn't full? Or do you give it to an athlete who's only full and misses out on those other attributes? So you go through the upper back. Bieki pinches his shoulder blades, which makes his traps look a little funky there. He's not rotating his arms out to give the width, but Steve is, obviously. And you look through the shoulders, the delts, I mean, they're pretty much even there. But you go through those little fine things like the glutes and the hamstrings, and you see that dryness there. And that's where, Bieki, those little details, is where he lost. I mean, plain and simple. If you're in this pro lineup and you want to be one of the best in the world, you need to have all the bases covered. Rear lat spread. Bieki's leaning forward, which makes him look like from this angle, from straight ahead, look wider. Down on the bottom, he's going to look more narrow. Steve's upright with his lats pulled out. His lower back is deeper and harder than Bieki's. Glutes, hard, dry. The trunks are not digging in at all. Hamstrings, dry, hard. I mean, you go to the rear delt again. Steve's rear delt, where it inserts to the tricep, very hard, very dry. Don't see that on Bieki. So, and then you hit the rear side tricep. Let's go to another pose. Let's go to most muscular because it's always a telling pose. Most muscular. So Steve hits his most muscular. He's just as wide, if not wider than Bieki. Harder through the brachialis, delts pop. I mean, even though he's flat, he's harder, drier, wide. Waist is tighter than Bieki's. And his feathering in his quads and the sweep of the quads are better. Now, if you go to the video that I'm talking about, rxmuscle.com, and you go and look at all the things I just said, that's why Steve won. And in person, it's even more apparent than what you see on the computer or in the pictures. Pictures can be very deceiving, very deceiving. Once you see them live, you'll understand. But my personal opinion is The judges made the right call. All those people hooping and hollering out there, you weren't fucking there. It aggravates the shit out of me how people go, you guys don't even know, fucking, this guy should have won. Dude, you weren't there. You don't even know what the fuck you're looking for. I guarantee you, when they turned around, fucking half the people bitching and moaning didn't even know to look for the fucking trunks digging in the glutes and the lower back. You didn't even know to fucking look for that. If it's there one guy and it's not there in the next, one guy is in better shape than the other. And if that guy who's in better shape is just as fucking big and wide and he's a little bit flat, so be it. He's going to win the fucking show. That's how Dorian beat a lot of guys. That's how fucking a lot of people beat a lot of guys. You got to be big. You got to be fucking hard. You got to have good symmetry. But if you're not full, doesn't mean you're going to lose the fucking show. Flex Wheeler lost a lot of fucking shows. He's full as fucking looked like a cartoon character, but wasn't dry enough or hard enough. And he lost a shitload of shows to guys that were actually bigger than him. So yes, size matters, but so does conditioning, so does fullness, so does roundness, so does everything. But when you add it up at the end of the day, if someone has 5 attributes and someone has 1, those 5 come out on top. bios3training@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.bios3training.com is the blog, and where this is the judges made the right call, bicep, and we're out.